Okay, today we're going to be working on a Dyson DC39 Animal bagless canister vacuum. My wife was using this vacuum cleaner and started making a strange grinding noise. The motor bogged down, and she said it smelled really hot. It smelled like ozone. I plugged it in a while ago, and sure enough, it sounds like the motor has a bad bearing or something broke inside it. So I went ahead and ordered a new motor, as I just showed you. Now, to take this vacuum cleaner apart requires a small torx bit for all of the, or a small torx driver for all of the screws. I'm going to start by taking the bottom off of the vacuum cleaner. It has a couple of little guide wheels, and that's where the hose connects in. We've got 4 screws down there to take off. And once the screws are gone, the whole thing just pops right off. You can see the whole thing gets together, and there's a little rack and pinion system in there that lets the hose, the direction that you pull the hose, kind of drive those guide wheels. All right, the wheels come off the outside, same torch driver. Now with the bottom and the wheels off, that exposes a total of 10 different screws that we have to take out to split this sphere in half. The first ones I'm going to take out are located right on the top of the little metal bushings where the wheels connect. So we'll take those 2 off. And now we can flip this thing over, and you see 8 different screws, each down in a little recessed hole. Now, unfortunately, my torx driver is too wide to get down in there, so I'm using a 3/32 inch Allen wrench. It's not a perfect fit. It's pretty good, but not perfect. So if you have to do the same thing, be very careful that you don't strip these screw heads out. Okay, with it cut in half, now you can see there's a little filter that can fall out of there when you pull it apart, but it just slides right back into a little slot in the lower half of the canister, or lower half of the case, and now the whole impeller assembly just kind of pulls right out of there. Got 3 little rubber feet on there. One of them fell off when I pulled it out, just sticks right back onto its little peg. And now we're going to take the top off this case for the motor and the impeller. Just requires prying a couple of tabs, and then it pops right off. And you see these 3 little black vibration dampeners that just sit in there, space the motor from the outer shell, and now the motor can pop out. And the only thing that's really connecting the motor to everything else is 2 wires, a white one and a black one. Just grab some needle nose pliers, pull those wires off, set the old motor to the side, grab the new one, put the wires right back on and onto the same tabs that they came off. And now we just take the vibration dampener that's on the top of the motor, put it on the new motor, and do the whole process in reverse. So a couple little holes in that thing that have to line up with some pegs, and once you get them lined up, it just drops right in place. We put our little vibration dampeners back in and put the cover back on to hold them in place. It snaps in place, and then we drop the whole thing back into the upper half of the vacuum. Rotate it around till we line up those little rubber feet with the holes they go into. And now we can put the top back, or the bottom half of the shell back on. And it's a whole lot easier to do that if you take the 8 screws out. I stuck them back in just for safekeeping, but with them sticking out of their screw holes at the bottom, getting in the way and keeping me from lining everything up. Take them out, and now everything lines up nicely. Now we can put our 8 screws back in. Actually, we're going to start with the 2 screws that go into the metal bushings because those will hold everything together, and those are much easier to get to right from the beginning. I mentioned before how I'm using a 3/32 inch Allen wrench, and it's not a perfect fit. So to be really careful that you don't strip out the heads on these screws. Bear in mind that they screw in about anywhere from 10 to 12 half turns, so about 5 to 6 full turns. And so when you get to around 10, be very careful tightening. When you start to encounter any resistance, call it good. Don't over tighten it, or you're going to strip the screw head, and it becomes really difficult to get it back out of there. Don't ask me how I know. Of course, if you have a torx driver that is small enough to get down into the hole, that's the much better way to do it, and you're not going to have a problem at all. Okay, now with that all back together, we can put the bottom back onto the vacuum. Oh wait, we gotta put the wheels on first. Now we can put the bottom on. Just spread that little guy apart. It goes right over a little mating piece, and comes back down. And just like with the bottom half of the vacuum, I tried to put this on with the 4 screws that it has in place, and they're really getting in the way. So the easier thing to do is ultimately just going to be to take this little thing back off, get those screws out of there, get them out of the way, and then everything goes back together more easily. There we go. Put it in place. Line up the little peg for the rack and pinion steering for those little guide wheels, and now we can put the screws back in. And that's the last of the screws. It rolls, seems to work. We'll put the canister back in place, put the hose back on it, plug it in, and try it out. This is a pretty expensive vacuum cleaner. Runs about $700. It's a HEPA rated vacuum cleaner. And the motor replacement was about $85, so it's a pretty significant cost savings. Sure enough, everything works. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps.